We're gonna break down some of the best performances in the shuttle and the 3-cone series at the combine, and we're gonna start right now. All right, so in the spirit of the NFL Combine, we're going to be looking at one of the absolute most phenomenal performances in the shuttle, okay? And this is going back to Christian McCaffrey and the technique that he used to just absolutely floor all of the NFL administration out there, okay? And one of the things that I want to look at is what is his footwork? And if you look back at how we broke down some of the 40s, you can actually see the technique involved, especially if you look back at DJ Turner running a 4.27. How many strides, what was his positioning throughout the 40, and how did he actually achieve that with a specific number of strides by the end of that 40? And that's what we want to look at with McCaffrey is what was his technique? What happens with the shin angles? What happens with the number of steps that he's taking? How does he calculate this? And then how can we in turn as coaches or, even as football players out there, take this and practice it ourselves and look at those positions and recognize that running the shuttle is a closed skilled sport. So if we're a football player, we can actually take this lesson from McCaffrey, learn the specific footwork, learn the specific ankle positions, learn that trunk control, and in turn try to optimize our own performance to the best of our own ability, not to the best of Christian McCaffrey. And then we're going to break down Jackson Smith-Njigba and one of his performances in the 3-cone, which is a really, really hard drill. Not one of the more popular drills, but I think it's one of those drills that actually transfers really, really well over to the field. I would even argue for defensive ends, D linemen, and for linebackers, I think that the 3-cone is an absolutely incredible indicator of what those positions are going to be, how they dip, how they cut around. So we're going to break those down and look at what specifics happen throughout the test so that you guys can write down your notes, and then you can actually start to practice this over and over again. Okay, so we're going to look at McCaffrey. He's got hip height here, okay, almost in line with the head, almost directly in line with the head. You can see he's favoring that right side a bit as he's about to start. He still holds that right hand down, so his right hand's down, his feet are almost exactly in line, and then we're going to get that turn, that first turn from the quad. Okay, so he starts to push that knee out. So we got to work on that abductor strength. So think about like a side band walk. Okay, so he's starting to rotate from the glute. Okay, he's starting to rotate and drop that knee from the glute. So we need crazy dorsiflexion in that right ankle and that abduction in that right hip. That's going to help him dump that right knee. And if you notice, he's really just rotating the heel in. Okay, and then look at his upper body. He tucks that right in. He's compressing here, dropping the knee, getting a really steep shin angle. And then let's watch that left leg still down. Okay, so he's holding this plantar flex position now, very stable. I guess it would not technically be plantar flexion at this point. He's still dorsiflex, but he's just holding that isometrically, similar to what he does in the 40 start. And that left leg, okay, sort of swings around, okay, and right away, he's starting to rotate his shoulders back. Okay, so you got to think. We go 1, 2, 3.5. And you can even see on this plant right here, okay, on this left plant, how he sort of rotates that as he's planting. So let's go back to this. Dump the right knee. Okay, dump and rotate that right knee. Stiff right ankle. This is where doing isometric actions with the ankle becomes really important. Lead with the torso, okay? Shin angle down. 1, 2, 3, plant 4, touch. Look at that compressed position right there, okay? Look at his left lead leg, how steep that left shin is going to be. And one error that a lot of high school kids make, and even college kids, is that they'll be planting with this right leg back behind that left knee. And as they come out of the cut, they sort of fall this way. So we've got to think about what that does. He's almost directly lined up with that left leg. He touches. He's got crazy compression in that front left knee. And now as he comes out and raises that chest, he leads that left knee down the track. Leads that left knee down the track. And now he's back in that 40 start. So now as he comes out of that, he leads that right leg around his left knee, so that he doesn't lose that energy to the side. And then we go, so he goes 4 to the cut. Okay, 4 to the cut. Now we go 1, and look at that isometric action. Steep shin angle. 1, 2, pretty high with that left knee there. I'm watching this as he gets driving forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plant 8. And he does same thing here. That left leg's almost directly in line with that front right leg. So he hits 8 to that line. So I think that depending upon your size, you're gonna see, and your strength out of that first cut, you're gonna see 7 to 8. But even if you take that 8 strides, sometimes you're gonna see here that the 8 strides, it might be 1 extra stride, but it can put you in a better position coming out, because now, again, abduction here, and this is very similar to a start. Okay, look at that plant. He doesn't lose anything in that right ankle right here. Doesn't lose anything in that right ankle, and just gets out here. And notice how he holds that right hip. He holds that right hip in position and then just turns the left around the right hip. Turns the left around, so he gets nice rotation. Turns the left around that right hip, and then he goes 1, 2, 3.5. Okay, maybe 3 1/4. So he goes 4 from the start. 1, 2, 3, 4. Plant, go. Okay, 4 from the start, 8 to the cut, and then 1, 2, 3.5. Okay, 4, 8, 3.5. Think about that compressed positioning. Think about his torso being, leaning very, very hard forward. I would argue, I wanted to go back over this. I had mentioned this. I saw this with this really high knee right there. I'm wondering if he had just a hair more lean there, what that would have done for his foot positioning. But dude, this time and this actual performance is great. And then just think about how much strength it requires and coordination it requires to throw the brakes on, drop the knee, and accelerate rapidly out of there. We've got to focus on that in training. So think about that. 4, 8, 3.5. 4, 8, 3.5. And he's starting with that big position right off the bat. Abduction, bring the right elbow in, drive the left hip, and look at his torso. He's not changing his torso. His torso's facing here the entire time. Boom. Feet are in line. Big component right there. Feet are in line. Maybe that left's a little bit deep, but feet are pretty much in line, and a great cut out of there. So we've got to focus on that when we're trying to improve that shuttle. Now, Jackson Smith-Njigba. This is a great performance here, and one of the things that we'll see in the 3-cone, the L-cone, whatever you want to call it, is there's a ton of footwork that goes into this. Okay, so we've got to go 1, 2, and this is the big step that a lot of people miss. Look at that, and watch his torso. 1, okay, so let's go back. 1, big jump. 2, 3, touch, go. Now, I would think here, one thing you could improve upon is bringing that right knee, right foot forward. Again, these guys are phenomenal. They dialed this in, but I would try to focus on that 1 huge step. 2, 3, boom, boom, 4. So 4 to the cut. Then we come back. Look at that shin angle. Look at that. And it's all tension in that ankle. So now he goes 1, 2, 3, perfect. Cut. Okay, now he's starting to drift to this right side, and that's where I think he starts to drift to the right side, and I think that could be possibly because of that right foot placement. I think if that right foot right here was just a little bit more in line, he wouldn't be drifting as much. Now, coming out of this, he's got that 3 steps, and just everybody's got to be aware of this. Look at how big this step is right here. Boom. Really does a great job leading forward, and if you watch him run his routes, this position, that's like a route run right there, okay? So let's go. 1, 2, big deceleration step. I love this, man. 1, 2, boom. 3, look at the compression point here. Okay, think about catching that clean. Think about that front squat position. This is great. Look at that. Look at the mobility in his ankle. Look at the mobility throughout his trunk, his lower back. Absolutely great. Okay, so 4 and then a 3 step. So 4, 3 step. Now he gets a little false step here. Okay, so this is something that you want to play around with. He just moves it slightly right there. I'm pretty sure that is a false step and not a little slip. So you got to play around with if you want to do that, because this sort of puts him in a little bit better position to accelerate. Drops that knee. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Should be 9, 10, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Bring it home, 16, 17, 8, 17 and a half. Okay, 17 and a half. I just want to write that down, 17 and a half. I want to go back to that. Okay, so if we go cut back here, okay, gets that slight false right there. Okay, so we got to see, if I'm coaching someone, I want to see, okay, let's do a couple with the false, let's do a couple without that false step. I don't think that's a slide in this case. I think he's setting that up for a little bit better acceleration. So we go 1, 2, and he's already turning that hip. Look at that. Okay, look at that whole hip is already turning. Okay, so we just got to keep that in mind. 1, 2, 3, 4 around that first cone, okay? So he's four to that position, cutting with it outside. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, here's where I think he could have placed that right foot forward a little more. See how he cuts with that right a little bit tight. I think he could have brought that right forward there. I think it could have diminished one of those. It would have cut out one of those steps. So he goes 1, 2. I would even argue right here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 to the second cone. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and a half. So I think the big thing here with Smith-Njigba is that I would actually argue, and again, dude, I'm being critical. I'm just trying to think about how can we take this stuff and break this down for our own high school athletes, is focus on what he's doing right off the bat. It goes 1, big one. 2, 3, 4, cut, okay? 1, 2, 3, cut. So 4, 3, 4, 3. You got to think about that. Now, coming out of this, 1, 2, 3, 4 to the first cone, okay? 4 to the first cone. So it goes cuts 4, then 3, then 4. Now he's planting here. Now we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of the second. Okay, 7 out of the second. And then we finish with 1, 2. Man, look at that. Look at that mobility. Look at that. 3, 4, 5, 6 and 3/4. 6 and 3/4. So if we add that up, we got 7, 14, 21 and 3/4 strides total. We've got to focus on his mobility throughout his ankles. I would try to play around with some different steps right here, like right from this left plant right here. I would try to bring that right forward and then bring that left over a hair more. Okay, and then that right plant and really cut hard with the torso, and that might eliminate 2 strides, but that's some stuff where you've got to play around with that. And that might take him from that 21, what was it? I think it was, 21 and a half or 21 and 3/4. That might take him down to 19 and 3/4, but you've got to play around with that because sometimes those extra steps actually help you get into a better position of acceleration. And so we have to test those steps, go from 21 to 19 or go from 8 to 6 and see what position you're in, but understand the footwork matters and the number of strides matter and angles matter the most depending upon the mobility of the individual and the stiffness of an individual. If someone's ankle is not as rigid as McCaffrey or Smith-Njigba, then there's going to be a problem. So you've got to see how you can hold those positions, drop the knee, have that hip abduction, and understand which lifts are going to transfer the best. So I like to do this so we can break down around the different strength issues, the different joint angles, and the even rate coding that their muscles are going through so that we can optimize their overall performance for our guys here at Garage Strength. If you guys need help with your training, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, the Apple iOS Store, and you can download Peak Strength for 5 free workouts. And you can even select in there specifically what position that you're going to play inside of football so that you can optimize your overall performance. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to get 5 free workouts to become a better football player. At some point, you guys have to start that journey to attain peak strength. Because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.